yesterday and today we learned the kind of automation approaches which we need to do. Now the last section, anything in testing, right? Anything in testing. Okay, let me just brief you. Anything in testing. First, navigation step. That code you have to write. I hope everybody agrees. Let me just type it properly. Okay, navigation step. Navigation step. Second is validation steps. Validation. When it is validation steps, what are all the validation steps, guys? The if condition. Where exactly you need to put the if condition? If actual result equal to expected result and all those steps. Okay. This validation steps also include what? Passing different set of test data. For loop and all you use. Different set of test data. These are all the things which you have learned till now. Navigation step, validation step, and all these things. Okay, after navigation, right, you will somewhere include all this automation approach, generic automation approach thing. Generic approaches like what? Synchronization point and all those things. Generic approaches. First is the navigation step like system.run, reach that object and all those things. Then the generic approaches, if at all it is required. You might be using environment variable or the synchronization point and all those steps. And the most important part is, as a tester, validation step. The last step is, after validating, all these days you were blindly writing print pass, else fail, print fail, or you were writing message box pass, message box fail. The other way of giving the result is, one of the important way of giving the result is the log file result. You would have heard this log file, even the developers stating those things. Okay, one of the way the results are stored in the framework is the log files, guys. To create the log files, we use what? File system object. File system object. As I said, we were like, assume you have scheduled the things. Once you are scheduled the stuffs, once you are scheduled the test, the results are stored in the FSO. When I say FSO, it's nothing but it's the text file. Log files are generally a text file, guys, where we say test case 1 is passed, test case 2 is failed, and all those stuffs. Okay, so this log files will be available. Assume you are supposed to execute 300 test case. Okay, and you schedule it today evening 7 o'clock. Tomorrow morning when you see that, right, when you open the log files, all those 300 test case results should be there. Okay, that is one thing. And if at all 7 o'clock you scheduled it, around 9 o'clock you stay in the office and you want to see which test case is getting executed, you can open that text file and you can see which test case is getting executed. That is the most important advantage of using file system object or the log files, because you can see the result during the runtime, guys. You need to underline file system object or the log files is used for what? Because you can see that during the runtime execution, whereas all the other results, right, only when QTP ends the result only you will be able to see that. Okay, and when you go for an interview, you need to be saying one of the ways the results are shown in our framework is through the log files. Okay, generally how exactly the results are stored, guys? When you are doing a manual testing, in the test case sheet you'll say you'll validate something, you go through the navigation, you validate something and say pass the result in the test case sheet. That is the first way. Okay, let me just put it this way. Like in our framework also, there will be like 3 ways we'll be giving the result. One is through our Excel sheet, that is basically the test case sheet. The first way is through the Excel sheet, and the second way is through the log files, and the third way is there is something called as reporter.report event. That is the HTML result, guys. Reporter.report event, this HTML result. Okay, yesterday you saw res1, res2, res3, right? Okay, we'll be discussing that in depth, okay, in future classes. Okay, so this is the third way of reporting the result. In our framework, how do we report the result? First way is test case sheet. The result will be there in the test case sheet as pass or fail. The second way is through the log files, and the third way is through the HTML result. This is called as a HTML result. This is called as a HTML result. Getting it right? So let me just type in file system object. My objective now is I need to create, let me reach out here, D drive. I need to create a log file like this. It will be a text file. I'm just manually creating this. Okay. I say December underscore batch. Okay. My test case, my log file, assume this is a log file. Okay. This should say in this log file, right? I need to type test case 1 is passed and test case 2 is failed. I just need to give the result, guys. I just need to type in the result like this. How it is implemented, all those things in the framework you'll get to know. Today my objective is in a text file, I need to write test case 1 is passed, test case 2 is failed, different sorts of a result. I just need to enter the result. Again, guys, we are not testing here anything. I'll be very clear. You are learning a concept, okay, which can be implemented in our framework. When we implement in our framework, you will get the whole idea. As of now, try to understand what exactly the objective. We'll do that objective. Okay. In any case, we'll be implementing all these things in a framework: environment variable, synchronization point, and our file system object. Okay. Now, in file system object, very important interview question, guys. Very important interview question. What they ask is, what are the three input-output modes? What are the input-output modes? Input-output modes. Okay. First is numeric 2 for write, and numeric 8 is for append, and numeric 1 is for read. Numeric is 1 is for what? Read. Okay. This is very important interview and the certification question, guys. Numeric input to input output mode is for what? Write. For 8, append. For 1, read. Okay. How do we go about? With the things now? First, what I'll do is, my objective is, as I described now, okay, I need to open one of the log file with some name. Let me say that December underscore batch logs or something like that. I need to say test case 1 is passed and test case 2 is failed. I need to write on that. Now again, when you are dealing with the third party tool, you would have observed in the Excel, right? We created two objects. One is my Excel and second one is my sheet, if you remember that. Okay, same way when we are dealing with the third party tool, Notepad belongs to whom? It belongs to our Microsoft guys. And if QTP wants to interact with them, what it needs to do? It needs to create the first object. First object will be used for what? To open the notepad. Okay. To open the notepad, we use the first object, and we use the second object to interact with the inside the notepad. To interact inside the notepad, what we do? We introduce the second object. Always first object is used for what, guys? To open the application, and the second object is used for what? To interact inside the application. So how do I write that? How do I write the code? These are all very important code, guys. I need to say set FSO equal to what? Create object. This is called as a class value. You'll be wondering, how do I know all this class value? These are all kind of a standards, guys, where you can copy paste or you can Google it. You will get it. Okay, there is no certain explanation which can be given to this. This is like a key for the other neighbors. I mean the neighbor's house kind of thing. Okay, they have invited you. They have given the key to you so that you can give the entry for the limited access kind of a thing. Okay, you can use that feature for the limited time kind of a thing. Okay, so set FSO create object. What's the class value? It's called as scripting dot file system object, scripting dot file system object. What is the first object? Whenever we create, we write set and any one of the variable name, it's called as a object. Okay. Okay. Now, whenever you create this, what is this first object always refers to? First object always refers to what? FSO dot open. You need to open the text file. First object always used to it. The main intention of the first object is always to open that application, whatever we are showing. FSO dot open text file, open braces. Okay, I'll say my objective is in D drive. Do you have anything December 14 logs underscore logs file here? No, I don't see anything of that file name. So let me just create it. I will say D drive. Okay, D drive December 2014 means December 14 logs dot txt. Close the braces, comma. Okay, okay. Now there will be something called as the there is something called as input output mode after this. Okay, the parameter called as to first objective is to write. Okay, to write the things, the input output mode. I mean, you'll be wondering, I'm not able to see the prompt, guys. What I'll do is I'll just type in the second object as well. Let me just see whether I can get the prompt so that it'll be much more easier for me to explain to you. My txt. Okay, let me just remove that. Instead of saying the entire things, right, the prompt, let me just delete, guys. I'll come to this, set my txt and all. FSO dot open text file, open braces. I'm not able to see the prompt, but I'll let you know the things, what exactly this things would be. First you need to write, I'll anyway comment this. First you need to write the path. Okay. Second is, what is the input output mode? What is the input output mode? These are the things. And the third one is whether to create or not. Whether to create or not. Okay, let me just comment this is the prompt generally it has, guys. Okay, let me just comment this. Okay, I need to write a code in such a way that I need to use the first object, open the text file. This is just a reference, guys. This is just a reference what exactly I'm going to write in that line actually. Okay, so let me just see whether I would be able to get the prompt. Okay, let me just see whether I would be able to get the prompt. Let me just check it out. It will be much more easier for me. Okay, I'm not able to get the prompt, guys. So if at all you find a problem like this, okay, let me just see. Let me just check it out so that it's much more easier for you to understand. Okay. If you see here, right, if you're not getting the prompt and if you're facing the issue like whatever I'm facing now, right, okay, you can write that method, place the cursor there, press F1, you'll get the help file like this. Can you see here something? Object is nothing but FSO dot open text file. Okay, what is a file path? That is what we are giving here. Okay, let me just put it in a proper manner now. Okay, if you're getting confused, please let me know, guys. Okay, let me just come to that. Okay, I'm just keeping this as a reference now. Okay, object FSO. Okay, open text file. What is the file name? Basically the path or the file name which you want to create it. So that is what is mentioned. And the input output mode, whether it is 2, 8 or 1, which we need to mention. And the last one is you need to create or not, that needs to be there. If at all you are not getting the prompts or the parameters to enter, right, you can press F1 so that you get to know what exactly you need to enter. Okay, I'll just keep this as a reference, this line number 14, so that when you practice also it will be much more easier. Okay, how to write the second line of code? I need to create a second object. I need to create a second object, my txt. Whenever I create a second object, I need to give equal to, with respect to what? I need to say first object. Okay, whenever I create a second object, it's applicable for everything, guys. Whenever we create a second object, I'll be referencing that to a first object. What is the first object here? FSO. Always first object is used for what? To open something. I'm opening a text file. Where do I need to open? Where is the path? I need to give a path like this. D drive. Okay, D drive. What is the file name which you want to give? D drive underscore D drive underscore logs dot txt. Okay, December 14. Let me just make it be specific. December 14 log dot txt. Okay, comma. What is the input output mode which we want? First objective for me is to write, guys. I'm using the to here. Okay, if the file is not there, what will be the third parameter will be doing? It should create. For that I need to be typing true. Okay, let me just reiterate, guys. Only 2 lines of code. It's very simple. Actually it is very simple. Do not get worried. Okay, first is first object get created. FSO create object. Scripting.filesystem object is a standard. Okay, it's not only QTP. If at all you write it in Perl, Python, anywhere, right? Selenium, anywhere, you will be having the class value as scripting.filesystem object to interact with the text file. Whenever you create a first object, that is used for opening something. So can you see that here? FSO.open text file. Okay, where exactly, which one it needs to open? We need the path for that. D drive QTP world batches. Can you see D drive this thing? So as of now it is not there. Okay, so that's why we had given that as true. If it is not there, create it. Okay, and inside that text file, what exactly input output mode which I need to do? Write the things, write the result. Okay, and what is this referencing? Set my text is a second object, always equal to your first object. Okay, hereafter, if at all I am using, whenever you create an object, right, next line of code will be always prefix of that object. Even if you had observed in Excel and all those places, right, whenever you create any object, right, next line of code will be prefix of that object. Now how do I write the result? I am just randomly writing, guys. I did not validate anything so that to write the result. I'm just randomly writing in a text file. That is what my objective is. My text dot write line. My text dot write line. Okay, shall I say test case 1 is passed. Test case 1 is passed. Now how do I say test case 2 is failed? How do I say my txt second object dot write line? How do I say test case 2 is failed? Now how do I close the object? My txt dot close. How do I release the object, guys? Always second object you need to release first. My txt equal to nothing and set FSO equal to what? Nothing. Okay. Let me just, I see a question from Sajid. He's saying, what is that FS or FSO? It is just a, what you call, this is just a, what you call, the variable name kind of a situation, guys. It's not like a rules, but generally whenever we interact with the text file, right, most of the technical people, they write it as FSO. You can give your name also. You can give Sajid also there. You can give Niranjan also there. You can give Ravi also there. Okay, any name you can give. But this, most of the people follow this standard, so that's why we are using this FSO. We are say that as a FSO. Okay, so if I execute this now, what will be the objective? What exactly it would do? If I execute this now, do you see anything December 14 log text file here? No, the answer would be no. But if I execute, it will create a text file. Inside that text file, what we can expect? Inside that text file, I need to see this to result. To result, when I say, I'm basically entering the statements. Okay, let me execute this. Click on run. Okay, let me see the result. D drive. Do you see anything of that sort, guys? December 14 logs. Can you see test case 1 is passed and test case 2 is failed? Okay, now I'm just entering some this thing. Randomly I'm saying test case 1 is passed, test case 2 is failed. Whenever we validate, this logs will be called. Basically, we'll be making it as a sub procedure in our framework, and we'll be calling. As of now, you won't be able to understand. Just assume that, okay, input output mode. Today, I want you people to know what exactly these input output modes are doing. Okay, this input output modes, 2 is for 2 is for write, 8 is for append, and 1 is for read. If you know this input output mode, right, in today's discussion, that's more than enough. And how to write and all, if you know, that's more than enough for us. Okay, do not worry about how exactly it is implemented in framework. Do not worry how exactly it's implemented in framework. We'll let you know how exactly to do it, but the objective for today's session is you get to know how exactly it is entered, the values are entered. Now generally, if you see the log files and all, right, you would be seeing the date and the timestamp, and then the result as test case 1 is passed or test case 2 is failed. How do I introduce the date and the timestamp? There is a built-in function called as now. Okay, there's a built-in function called as now. It will give the date and the timestamp. So I'll be appending that date and the timestamp. To append something, right, you need to use ampersand. To append something, you need to use ampersand. I'll be appending with spaces. And then I'll say test case 1 is passed and test case 2 is failed. Now how do I write the date and the timestamp? What is the code for that? Now ampersand. How do I concatenate space, guys? Open quotes, give a space, close quote. Then how do I concatenate that? Again give ampersand. This concatenation and all will be using, guys, in our framework and all. Okay, now if I execute, what will be the result, guys? Let me just execute. Let me just close all these things. Okay, earlier what exactly we saw in the text file? Let me just close all those stuff. Okay, earlier what exactly we saw? We just saw test case 1 is passed, test case 2 is failed. Now can you see? You get the date and the timestamp, and then the test case 1 is passed. So when you get the log file also, right, you get to know what time it got executed and which test case it got executed and what is the result for that. So when you are executing like a batch, say assume 7 o'clock, next day when you come, it's still executing. Assume around 12 o'clock your manager asks what exactly happened, the result is. You can open this log file during the runtime and you can see, okay, this test case is getting executed. Okay, and this is what the status